My name is Eric Strand, and it was like more of a coincidence, I think, that I just got into finance. I had an easy time in school. I liked numbers, mathematics, and I think finance was a way to be able to do something out of the box, something different, not just an engineer or a doctor, but more possibilities. And it was a little bit, by doing sports, I came into finance, and then I got stuck. Well, it has, of course, evolved through the years, but what I like to say is that I think you have to invest, and you have to do mistakes, and actually it isn't before you have made all mistakes that you are there, you are ready to be a fund manager, and you probably should do them by yourself before you are a fund manager. And I think that's the best way to say, if you haven't done all mistakes, you are a risk. So you have to go through it, and that builds the philosophy. Of course, I think more of in value than in technical things, but I respect technical issues or aspects, because it sometimes determines the short movements in the market. But I like to see the companies from their value, and of course, as I have been thinking a lot since the real finance crisis, or maybe we're getting to the big one later on, but it started me to think a lot about what is money, to go deeper. And actually there are not so many people in the financial industry who can really explain what money is, even if they worked there for so many years, and how money comes to life in the system. So that's of course very important for me in my investment thinking. We have gone through a lot of different times from different bubbles, and I think really now the system, with so much money printing, so much debt, we are really coming to a perfect storm. We have seen stock markets doing well for a lot of years, of course helped with printed money, and we also had a bond market that has been in a bull market for 30 years, and of course rates, they can always go lower, but it seems that we are at the bottom. And so you can have you only have this maybe once in 30 years, that it may not be so good to own bonds and equity stocks at the same time. So that makes it really interesting, and that's why I think we are positioned in a very great way for the coming 10-20 years. As we have positioned us with the fund, as our brand is AuAg, is gold and silver, and so this fund is actually very, I call it sometimes stupid fund. It's very easy, it's long only. We are always fully invested between 97 and 100%, so it's makes it easy for the investor to know that we are doing what they think we are doing. We are long only. We don't go in or out the market. I actually had a hedge fund before, and then was the job to go in and out, and that's all very interesting, but it's always difficult for the investor to know what are they buying. But in this case, we have made it a long only, very easy fund, and as of course a UCITS fund, so everybody knows in Europe. So for the security for the fund and the diversification, of course, then this market is very, very special. It's we are focusing on silver for the fund, as in the name. So silver miners, not commodity, but silver miners. And silver is probably the most volatile commodity. Mining equities, probably one of the most volatile equity sector. And if you mix these together, you have a really volatile fund. And the only thing making it less volatile is maybe that we have these approximately 30 holdings. So we have a diversification. And I think that's a good property for this sector, as it's really important to have don't take too big risks, because one mining company can get in big troubles, and if you're only betting on one, it gets really not so good for yourself. So a fund is good in this case, I think. And what we think is important with a fund, especially in this market, first it's liquidity in the markets we trade. And second is the jurisdiction where the mining companies are operating. And this is rather good with silver because 60% of the silver is mined in North and South America. So we stay in safe jurisdictions. Because in a fund it's not so good to have companies working in unsafe jurisdictions because you get a binary risk, and that may work for private holding, but in a fund it's better to have safe jurisdictions. And of course management in the companies are very important in this sector because there's a lot of money involved. And precious metals miners, they are never purely gold or purely silver, so they always have maybe 80% gold, 20% silver as a byproduct. But what we look for in the fund is the focusing silver miners, so they maybe have 60% silver, 40% gold, but that makes the fund be something special in the whole of Europe because gold miners, as the big funds are famous, this will be a focused silver miner fund, so it's a little bit special there, yes. AuAg Silver Bullet is focusing on silver miners, and the silver miners, they probably normally get, like as I said, 60% silver, 40% gold, so there it's very focused. But for the future we may have funds, so we have the second fund that there we look at the periodic system, so we are a little bit broader than just gold and silver or AuAg, but it makes everybody look at to remember the periodic system, and that's what we like, that it's something everybody knows. We all had it in school, but most of us forgot about it. But if you see it, you remember it, and that's our brand. We just launched the second fund, and the second fund has a different mandate, and it's called AuAg Precious Green, and that means we are investing in precious metals, mainly gold, and green tech. We were happy to be so fast in the launching, but a bit unlucky that the Nasdaq there was like this mini crash exactly 2 days after we launched. But anyway, in the long run that doesn't really matter, of course. But we had a great success with the first fund in 10 months with over 15,000 investors, and of course they were really hot on the new funds, so a lot of them have already invested in this first week. And the take there is very different. It doesn't have the same high risk, it's a bit lower. It's still not a very low risk, but lower than the Silver Bullet. The Silver Bullet is a risk class 7, the highest class you can have. This has a lower risk, and the concept is built on the classic 60-40 portfolio, 60% equities, 40% bonds. And we have made a new model from this, and the 60% instead is in green tech equity. And for us, the green is the electricity, and so you have to make electricity, you have to store electricity, you have to transfer electricity, and you have to make things to save electricity so you don't use so much. So all these 4 different parts of the electrifying part of the world in the green world. As a fund, of course, we would like to have an impact in the companies that we invest in. At the moment we are rather small for being a big fund, so we don't have the big power to vote through things, but I mean, we are growing, and we are growing fast, so the day will come where we have so much invested that we can make any difference in the companies, but I think that would take some time. I have been doing sports, I think longer than my finance because I started earlier, but yes, in the early beginning I did a lot of fencing, competing, and it was the World Cups, World Championships, European Championships, Olympics, everything. And it gave me, of course, that I always wanted more. I wanted to win or everything, and I actually had to work to not to try so much to win, or always. You have to become happy sometimes, because when you're a professional athlete, you're really never happy. I mean, even if you win, you want more, and you're never really happy. Now when I stopped with the fencing a long time ago already, but now I'm doing a lot of yoga, but it's a very physical yoga, so it's very tough. So it's there is a mindfulness into it, or actually I like to say the word no mindfulness. So you leave the mind, no mind, so you can really work and be, because you make the best decisions when you're in really this no mind state, when everything just goes from all your experience working. So and when you get to this stage, when you do this very physical yoga where you think you are going to die because it's so tough, and like Bruce Lee said, the only true meditation is in motion. So you really get so tired, and so you feel so much pain. So and normally if you don't have the calmness, you will start to be in panic, and of course if you are in panic, you make the wrong decisions. So practice to be cool is a really good when you are a manager for a fund or making these decisions. As I said, when everything is smooth, it's an easy job. When the time is tough, you have to be cool. And with the first fund, we had a lot of experience. I mean, we launched it in November, and then we came to the Corona crisis, COVID crisis, and it was like boom, everything was down. But instead of hiding, we went out and we spoke. And what we have been focusing on is the case for the fund. So we're always only promoting the case. We don't promote the returns. They have been really good through these 10 months, but it's always the case, so we can stand for the case. And even in Corona, when we were down, we could say the case is here. The case was good actually before. Now the case is even stronger, because now we are in overdrive, printing money, going into debt. So we actually didn't need that for the case, but because it was strong before, but actually got even stronger. But to be out there, not hiding when the time was tough, these weeks in March, was really good for us, and we could turn around both with we actually got only inflows. We got that with our investors. They have been, we had some weeks ago we had really bad day for silver, minus 10%, and I thought, okay, now we'll lose some money. And first day we got some money in, but okay, I thought maybe they didn't have time to sell. And then the coming 2 days we have the largest inflows ever. So that was really good to see, because then the investors they understood they are buying on the dips going down, so instead of selling, and that made me really happy. I think media is really important nowadays, because you have so much possibilities for investors to buy by themselves through their web, on the platforms, internet. And when you can meet the investors out there, that's just like a new channel. I mean, from the old days where everybody had to have salespeople meeting people and signing papers. This is a little bit of my luck, because I did join some podcasts some years, 3-4 years ago, where I was a guest, and I actually didn't really know what a pod was. And I did it, and it became a success. And then I realized how many people were listening to these pods, and then I understood this is really powerful. And I looked for more, where could I join for more pods. And in Sweden I have had the opportunity to fill in a space speaking about gold and silver also on TV, when the big banks, don't really have people for this. They have some commodity person, but that's very broad, and they have to have the bank's house picture of the world economy. So it's a little bit easier for me to speak about the world economy in a different way and talk about the money printing and debt than for big banks. So I had the opportunity to get the position in the Swedish media, and but also with these pods and everything like that. And also I would say that also again a little bit of luck that the old fund companies are really built on having a part for media, salespeople, and they made really nice presentations, slick, everything. And then they had the managers behind the screens, and they were never out. And I like to be out and to speak, both for people, but also with the camera. And that's an advantage. You see some new managers, they have this, but some who have been just behind the screens never spoke with the camera or to the audience. For them, it's difficult. And I think the audience today, when they are listening so much to pods, watch TV, they want to hear the flesh and blood, even if it's not always perfect what you are saying, but they like to hear from the manager, from the source. And so that was a good timing, or lucky timing, that it has become so big, I would say, yes. I think communication through video, pods, whatever, is of course big part of the future. However, I see now we have passed the first years of this communication, and it was like a little bit speeded up through COVID or Corona crisis. So now I have the picture that you have to raise or lift yourself to another level with another quality, because you could, during the crisis, you could get away with just like a really bad movie or film, not a movie but film, and from the car or somewhere with your mobile phone. But I think if you get a lot of more people doing movies or pods or Zoom meetings or whatever, I think the quality will be a big or important part in this. So you can't, it's not just enough to do it, because everybody's doing it, so you have to stand out. Stefan Norman at etc. Gold was the person who actually told me that I should have contact with Søren, and that may be a way for me to get more attraction, because now we have had a great success in Sweden. We will grow more in Sweden, of course, but we have our Euro assets class, and we will. It started at the same day as the SEK class, but the Euro class, I mean, it's open for Europe. It's a UCITS fund, so it's really easy to adapt in Europe. We just have start to promote it a little bit more. Coherra is really interesting as a pioneer. I'm a pioneer, and what is good when you're, I mean, I've been in the finance for a long time, but it's only since last year I have my own brand and like the final step. And I really like to work with the companies that are starting their journey, maybe doing something different, but still in finance, but whatever, if it's in making a platform or something else, they are starting now because they have the same thinking, they are in the same stage, and then it makes more fun to cooperate. And as I've been investing in gold, I have using products, ETCs, like etc. Gold, and there I had some friends, and they were here, and we had a meeting, and we were talking, and we're giving some names to each other. I wanted to help them to get more investors in Sweden for their ETC, and they gave me some names for this could be interesting for me to cooperate with, and that's why I got the Søren's name on Coherra, and we spoke, and I like to try new things and to be in the beginning of something, so that was easy. When you trust somebody, I like to follow the thread. I mean, you trust somebody and they give you a name and they trust them. I mean, I like this kind of not making big negotiation, so talking and sitting in 10 meetings and then do something and you have to write like 20 documents to sign. I am a handshake man, and maybe that's old-fashioned, but I like to trust, and for me trust is everything, and that's what I also want to give to my investors, that they can trust me, and I want to earn their trust. That's my passion.